afternoon, everyone. So India's strategic position has changed significantly over the past decade. Traditionally fixated on its chief rival, Pakistan, India is now concerned about the striking and rapid modernization of China's armed forces. So in one of these endeavors, Government of India introduced Agnipath Scheme to bring more youthful energy in the forces across the board in the times to come. While the scheme is seen as a good tactical move to address growing geopolitical concerns of India, but at the same time, the Agnipath scheme has also been criticized widely. So today we are discussing the Agnipath to understand if it's good for India or should it be scrapped. We have the opportunity to have highly decorated veterans on our panel today to understand the scheme and its relevance. And I take pride in introducing them to you all, to my viewers, one by one. So first of all, we have General Pawar. General Pawar, can you slightly raise your hand?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. General Pawar is ABSM, SM, and a vivid writer. He has authored multiple books in his career. Now he is based out in Meerut in his post-retirement scenario, and he's operating from there and enriching the knowledge of the people who are here around who are reading his books. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us on this panel discussion.
Thank you and most welcome.
We have General S.K. Jha with us. He is the, thank you, sir. So he is retired from armed forces and he is decorated with Seva Medal. Hope I am correct, sir. And
Sena Medal.
Thank you, sir. Sena Medal.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for correcting. And we have Colonel Shakti Rana with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir.
I'm honored, sir.
And Shakti Rana is a third-generation army officer. He got commissioned into the Allied Armored Group in 1986. And after spending 21 years in, after spending 21 years in the armed forces, he started the corporate life, and he has been the head of crisis management planning and implementation in Nokia as global head till 2024. Currently, he is pursuing the freelance engagements in this direction only. Colonel Rana brings the qualitative point here. He having served in the Manpower Planning Directorate of the Armed Forces, which is responsible for the recruitments in armed forces, and primarily in army. I am sure he will be able to enlighten us with respect to AGNIVEER and Agnipath as a scheme. Thank you very much for joining us. Sir, with this, I open the discussion for the varied experience, opinions from each one of you, the valued opinions. So, sir, to start with, I would like to take a note from each one of you for a couple of minutes, if you would like to speak on that. How do you see Agnipath as a concept? So should we start with General Pawar?
Okay. Or not so good as regard our countries there. It will be premature to say. Okay, but yes, in those countries where the number of the youth do not wish to join army for a longer duration, maybe because of they are too well off, maybe they do not have the liking for the OG uniform and the hard and tough life. In that case, a short-term policy, like it may be AGNIVEER, it may be conscription for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So it is a debatable point as on today, so far our country is concerned.
Thank you, sir. General Jha, would you like to put your views on how do you see Agnipath as a concept?
Okay, there are actually AGNIVEER is a concept. You can call it formulated from an idea.
Sure.
Now, idea, before you get an idea and crystallize it as a concept, you generally want to find out what is the environment, what is our basic needs, and how do we approach that.
Mhm.
So based on that, basically in our country, the population-wise now we are leading in the world.
Right.
In that also, our youthful profile of the country is pretty good. In fact, the best in the world.
Right.
So question comes, how do you get them employed? Now, there aren't so many avenues open in the country where government can actually get them the job that they need. Also, we have had a mindset from the time of the British Raj
Mhm.
that anybody who gets a job in the government, he is secured his life for life, because till he is serving and post his retirement, also he is being looked after in the form of pension that he gets. Now the question is, time is changing fast. If you remember at one stage, I remember when we were young, the people actually wanted to become a doctor or engineer. Then after some time, when they started seeing the administration seeping down into the society, they thought autocracy or getting into bureaucracy is a great thing because you wielded power as well as you were secured post-retirement.
Sure.
And these were the requirements of a ruling elite which was ruling this country. Now, when we have attained kind of independence, Swaraj as they call it, there is a need for understanding that we can't be ruled in the same manner. Whereas these appointments, bureaucracy, and others are supposed to be helping the society. So it's a tough call, but nonetheless, attraction of getting the pension and security for life is a very strong factor, and which is seeped in our mind. And I would call it is the slave mentality where you get some kind of a benefit and you go for it. Because from a very affluent state, we were brought down to the most deprived nation in the world. When the British came, we had 28% of the global trade going through India, from India.
Right.
But when they left, not even 1% of the trade was happening in India. So we became kind of a beggar. We were seeking help from all over.
Right.
Now, when you have attained independence, there is a need to form your views and your opinions. So this concept of having a Agniveer is not something new which has not been tried. Earlier, it was by order something called conscription, where at the time of need, when you wanted more people to join the forces to fight wars, you needed to have that. But that kind of a situation is unlikely to come because world has become kind of a global village.
Right.
You cannot deny that there will be wars, but the war of the intensity like First and Second World War is not going to happen unless actually all political levels have gone actually bonkers. Each country is being ruled by people like Hitler or, that kind of a lot.
Right.
You do have sane people also, but you also do not want to disrupt so having that in mind, it was a very good idea that, okay, we must first not exactly regimentate, but discipline the lot of people, because somewhat after independence, we went berserk about defying everything which was kind of a rule for the nation. You always defied. See the state of, the state of Bihar, from where I come, till about 60s, even after 47, it was one of the best governed states. But now it is at the bottom of the figure because lawlessness has, crossed all limits. Everybody interprets everything in their own way. Now, to have some semblance, there is a need to streamline and put this population through some kind of a regimentation, if I can say. This is a strong word, but some kind of a self-discipline that when they come out, they understand what it takes to block the road or do not disturb the public life. So when this, after 4 years of training, if these guys, when they come out, there'll be a different lot, not the kind of people that you have in the JNU. Now, second thing was, India has to develop, and for development, you need funds. Now, you may be aware that the defense budget, almost 35-40% of the money was going into meeting the pension requirements.
Right, sir.
Now,
About 50%. Right.
So then where do you plan to have, accretions in your capital investment, in the sense when you want to have newer weapon system, you want to have newer technology coming into the army, you will never get it because you don't have the money. And therefore, the government was taking a very well-rounded approach by, Samriddha Bharat, make in India system that came in. So this was one of the methods to think that, okay, you get a disciplined lot coming out. Secondly, you also have reduced the pension load, pension fund, money kam ho jayega. Third, you will also integrate these social other departments into a system where when these guys are due to move out, only 25% of the Agniveers are to be retained and 75% are to move out. So when they move out, where do they go? So to have a semblance of discipline and respectful, smart people being there in other armed services in the country, like paramilitary forces, police forces in the state, or the corporate guys wanting it. Some of the civil security agencies want to hire them. And it could have been, they would all get absorbed. Yes, the numbers will be pretty large. But if a concerted effort as a nation is put through, it can be. But then you have these political people playing their own game. And they were inciting that 4 saal mein tumko, they'll screw you for this thing and go away. I mean, you'll be of no use to the government. So naturally, it was a great shift in the mindset from a secured service to just 4 years service and thereafter you're on the road. But you're actually not on road. You're coming out with about 30-40 lakhs, bank account. You can do any kind of an enterprise. You can be good to the society. As also you can pursue academics. Also, this was a system where is in vogue in US as well. But US is a very matured society from the point of view that they are all focused on nation first and then the rest.
So, sir,
But in our country,
sir,
in our country, it is no. Their concept is, I'll just get back. But our concept is, we first and then the nation. Just the opposite. So therefore, the differences in the government, the political system is that they want to somewhat cash on and get the vote bank politics, something like the way you have been patronizing the Muslim people for voting for a particular party. Now, these things, we are a divided society. There is no doubt in it. And this was one of the systems where in the army, we have no social strata or no caste system. A Muslim or a Hindu or a Ahir or a Yadav or a Jat like me and Shakti eat on the same table.
right.
But, you have differences which is, expressed and forgotten. But in the political circle, it is brought so that you come into power. Lastly, I would like to say that any idea, when first society faces, it is opposed very strongly. But slowly, when it persists, people see logic in it, and they still want to resist. But ultimately, they accept it. And therefore, my recommendation to the government is they must go through with it and see how, give it a chance. No sooner you have adopted a policy and you start opposing it, the way we see the scene in the parliament. I mean, it's amazing. You have chosen, a government has come in place, or let it function. You have a viable option, alternative you give, but they don't permit the thing to be, going on in the parliament.
Okay.
So it is a very good scheme. It needs to be given some time.
Okay.
The only difference is the challenges also comes into the army. In the army, what happens is we were in our comfort zone.
Sir, if I say the initial thought at the concept level, your view is that the scheme, the Agnipath scheme through which Agniveers are coming in is pretty good for the nation in the long run, and it should be continued. Obviously,
Absolutely,
with the passage of the time, it will be matured. If there are the shortcoming, it will be addressed. That's what you are telling us.
Only issue is that within the army, what is happening is we were in our comfort zone, that we had a set pattern of people whose year after year they were graduating to various ranks. They knew the system. We had a regimental system kind of a thing, especially in the fighting arms. And you don't want to disturb that. What happens is now, every year you'll have about 75% of soldiers getting away.
Right, sir.
Thereby the people who are permanently in the unit retained, they will have to do extra work to ensure the same system is in place. Because
Right.
army works on system. They work on standing operating procedures.
Right.
And if that is disturbed, then what happens is that you will have certain setbacks. But that we have to work on it. And it is not such a thing that cannot be followed.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
That is my.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, Colonel Rana, I mean, we heard General Pawar, we heard General Jha. So, what are your opinion as an initial opinion on the concept? Because I think General Jha and General Pawar is saying that in scheme, I mean, in overall, the scheme looks good to the nation. Your view, sir?
Yeah, so General Jha brought out a very important point that any idea which comes into work needs to be first tested out, and then it is made as a concept, and then it is put into use. That is a very important thing which has to be done. And I'm sure a lot of background work has already been done. And I am a short service officer. I qualified to be the Agniveer in the officer class. This scheme has been running on since, in the officer class, this has been running on since 1962, when we had the first emergency commission officers. When there was a shortage of officers in the army, in the Chinese debacle when it happened. So that was the first time there was emergency commission officers who were enrolled for 4 to 5 years. And then there was a continuous scheme wherein short service officers were enrolled into the army to make good the shortage of officers. So as a concept, this has been tested on the officer class, and I don't see any reason why this will not work for the Jawans. As you said, I put in about 21 years of service, and in that period, I'm sure, like both the generals would have also experienced what sort of people come into the army. My personal take is that there are three class categories of people, because this has got a relation to the concept. That is why I'm giving this three categories. One is the motivated lot who come into the army, who want to make a career and who want to superannuate and get the pensions and everything. And at the end of it, retire and go to the civic streets and live a retired life. The second category is the people who come in only for pension, who just wait for the 15 years of pensionable service, take out the pension, and then they move out and they venture out into the civic streets and get a new job and a new career for themselves. The third category, which is a very dangerous category, is accidental soldiers, which I call them. They somehow, due to luck or due to family pressures or something, they come into the army, and they do, from the day one, they put in their papers and they want to leave the army. So if you look at the concept now, since the question is towards the concept, this has a relevance now.
Right.
As of now also, only 33% of the people who get enrolled into the army actually want to make army as a full-fledged career. So as a concept, as I said, officer class, it has been tested. For the PBOR, this concept is in vogue, because only 33% actually want to serve in the army. The rest, 66%, either do not want. The first day onwards, they put in their papers and want to leave the army. And there is a huge waiting list in every regiment, every unit, for the people who want a early exit as soon as possible. There is a waiting list. I've seen it happening for the last 21 years in the army.
Sorry to
And the
interrupt
third
you, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. So you are saying that in this Agniveer, this 25% which we are going to retain would be actually those resourceful people who are truly willing into the services.
Yes, what I'm saying is that I have seen it firsthand. At the end of my 5 years of service, I realized that my coursemen who were there, the people who were not retained, either they did not want to serve any further, or they were not fit to join the army. And I personally had to put in a lot of effort to get a permanent commission. And that in long term actually helped the army also and me as an individual also. So as a concept, I think this has been tested and it will stand the test of time again and again for the PBOR also. There are various advantages. As we go into the discussion, I'll come to those advantages also.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So here we agree that concept seems to be good on the ground, and only the times would tell us how successful it would be. And also, I mean, in case, as I earlier said, in case of any shortcomings, that would be addressed in due course of time. But yes, General Jha also said, let's implement it. General Pawar also said it. Let's implement it and see how the best we can do and what can be the changes or customization of this policy is required in that case. So with this, sir, I will like to stick to the another question to you, Colonel Rana. In what ways does this scheme challenge the traditional perception of the armed forces?
Yeah, as General Jha, I think partially covered this also.
Yes, to an extent, yes, yeah.
The general perception in the army is that we are prone to staying in our comfort zone. And we're happy with the system which we have, which you get a guy who's enrolled and you train him well, and then he serves in the army for minimum 15 years and maybe up to 27 to 30 years. That is the time, and you build in your regimentation, you have loyalties, you have a trained guy who you can bank upon, and there is a mutual respect between the PBOR and the officer class, and there is a professional army which is there. So that is why the army is slightly hesitating into getting into the new scheme of things. But if you go into the details of, say, in the 1950s and beyond that, the security per se, the safety and security at the borders was taken care of by the Indian Army. And inside it was the security forces, including the police and the paramilitary forces.
Yeah.
Even the chowkidar in the village was a government official. So
Right.
the safety and security actually was a forte of the government. But as time passed and as we stepped into the 21st century, we realized that this workforce, the security forces, include the army and the paramilitary forces, are not able to cope up with the challenges which we have on the borders as well as inside. So I feel that once you have this Agniveer coming up, because this is, I think, the third batch would be going in now. It's
Right.
already been 4 years now. The first batch will actually come out in I think next year or the year after that. They'll come out trained manpower. You will have outside. So at the outset, what will happen is that we will have a younger army. And earlier, where one person used to get a job and he used to stay in that job for 25 years or between 15 to 25 years, now you will have 3 people who will rotate in that one vacancy which is there. I was in the recruitment and I realized that for every vacancy which you had for recruit, there were close to about 2,000 aspirants.
Right.
Now that ratio will actually come down because there is a wastage rate in the army because of retirement and because of various service requirements which are there. People lose their lives, people get more medically boarded out. So there is a wastage rate and you have a fixed number of vacancies which arise every year. But with this new scheme, the Agniveer scheme coming up, you will have 3 times, maybe 4 times those vacancies because the headcount will remain the same. And if I wonder if you've heard today's morning news, which is there.
Mm-hmm.
So the anomalies which were there, the government is already taking care of because there was a apprehension that the guys who get trained there and after 4 years when they are told to leave the army and only 25% are retained will actually be unemployed. Today morning, it was in the news that all the paramilitary forces have reserved 10% of the vacancies, the recruitment vacancies for the Agniveers. That is to say, CAPF, CISF, RPF, CISF, and all the paramilitary, including BSF. They have said that
Not only the
they will have,
paramilitary, it is going to be the PSUs also.
yes, I'll come to that. So 10% is the job reservation for these Agniveers, plus they will not undergo a physical test. And
Right.
they will get a age relaxation of about 4 years. The first batch will get about 5 years. Next onwards, it will be 4 years. So there is a job security for them. Apart from this, what is happening is, as I said, that earlier the safety and security was only limited to the government agencies. Now, in the 21st century, I'm talking of the last 25 years now, the blue uniformed guards are a profession now which are going to stay, and there is a huge potential. I served in the army in Nokia for about 15 years, and I realized that I always had a challenge of getting trained manpower to be manning my security post and taking care of the safety and the security duties. It was a challenge now. With the Agniveer, this thing, I can see a potential that these guys who are youngsters in their mid-20s who will come out trained from the army, they will suit the bill and they will get good jobs in the corporate also. It is a billion rupee economy waiting to happen. There is a huge opening out. So I don't think individually also these guys will have any challenges once they finish their tenure for 4 years and they come out. So there would be a flood of opportunities for these guys to get a second innings outside.
Great, sir. So thank you for these quick views, sir. And General Pawar, I will come to you. General Jha did mention that Agnipath as a scheme would definitely provide, on one side, it will provide the youthful regiment or the youthful army of the people, which are their youth in their prime. Secondly, it would also address the economical challenges of the armed forces by reducing the pension bill specifically. So what are your views on this, sir?